Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into Chapter 11 today, focusing on literally the most common yet kind of deceivingly complex object in all of Java. Yeah, I'm talking about strings. If you write Java code, you probably type the word string dozens of times a day, treating it almost like this basic, foolproof building block. But beneath that simple surface, well, there lies a really intricate system designed for optimization, which, if misunderstood, can secretly undermine your entire application.
You know, it's so easy to take text manipulation for granted, right? You just create a string, maybe print it out, pass it around, no big deal. But under the hood, Java handles strings in some truly fascinating ways that directly impact your app's speed, its memory footprint, and even its security. Today, we're going to peel back the curtain and see what's really going on. So here's our agenda for this explainer. First up, the immutable Java string. Then, comparing strings correctly. Third is inside the string pool. Fourth, splitting and joining text. And finally, building strings for performance. All right, let's just jump right in.
Okay, section 1, the immutable Java string. We absolutely have to start with the foundational rule that governs everything else we're going to talk about today.
Immutability. In Java, once you create a string, its value is locked in memory forever. Literally, its state can't be changed after it's been initialized. Now, this design choice is actually brilliant because it makes strings inherently thread-safe, meaning multiple threads can read the exact same string without stepping on each other's toes. But it also makes them uniquely stubborn when you actually want to modify them.
And it's really interesting how we prove that rule. If you run a method like lowercase on a string of text, it doesn't actually change your original object. Nope. Instead, the JVM spins up a completely brand new string instance in the background for that lowercase version. The original string, totally untouched. Moving on to section 2, comparing strings correctly. Because strings are complex objects and not simple primitive data types like an integer, treating them like simple numbers is just a massive recipe for disaster. Which brings us to the classic gotcha that catches almost every single Java developer at least once early in their career. You have two pieces of text, and you want to know if they're the same, so you use the double equal sign. Well, why is that so dangerous? To guarantee you're comparing the actual text value, the real content, you absolutely must use the dot equals method. When you compare two strings this way, the JVM actually looks inside the objects, reads the characters, and correctly tells you if the content matches. So here's the crucial takeaway. Dot equals checks the actual data, character by character. The double equals sign, on the other hand, it just checks if two pointers are looking at the exact same address in memory. It's kind of like asking if two people live in the exact same house, rather than asking if they have the same name. If you have two separate objects holding the exact same word, double equals will tell you they are entirely different. All right, section 3, inside the string pool. Because here's where it gets kind of wild. Sometimes that double equals sign actually does work completely by accident. To figure out why, we have to travel inside the Java virtual machine to a highly optimized area. To save space, Java employs a technique called string interning. Whenever you declare a string literal, just text inside quotes, Java checks if that exact text already exists in the string pool. If it's already there, Java says, hey, no need for a new object, and just points your new variable to the old memory address. Let's see this in action. Take a look at variables A and B here. They're simple literals, both assigned to the exact same word. But variable C? That one forces a completely new heap allocation because we explicitly used the new keyword. And this perfectly illustrates the illusion we're talking about. All three variables hold the exact same text. But if you use double equals to compare A and B, it says true, because the string pool pointed them to the exact same memory location. But compare A to C with double equals? False. C is totally isolated in a different part of the heap because we forced it to be. Now, while this pool saves a ton of memory, it historically came with a pretty scary hidden cost. Before Java 7, this pool lived in a space called permgen, and if you filled it up, it could literally crash the whole JVM. To fix that, Java 7 moved the pool to the main heap space and massively cranked up its hash table size to balance the load. Okay, section 4, splitting and joining text. Let's step out of the memory heap for a second and get back into some practical everyday code. When you're breaking apart a CSV file or parsing a sentence, you've got an architectural choice to make. The standard string.split method is super flexible, right? Because it relies on regular expressions. But regex takes computing power. If you need raw speed, our source points out that string tokenizer is roughly twice as fast because it restricts you to fixed characters instead of heavy regex. On the flip side, when you need to put things together, Java 8 finally gave developers a total lifesaver, string.join. It makes it trivially easy to glue an array of strings together with a delimiter, like a plus sign or a comma, without having to write those clunky, annoying loops. And hey, if you're building complex outputs like JSON arrays, the string joiner class is absolutely brilliant. You don't just get to define a delimiter, you can effortlessly inject opening and closing brackets around the whole thing. It just makes your code so much cleaner and highly readable.
Which brings us to Section 5, building strings for performance. This is probably the most crucial part for us developers, how to build massive text blocks without grinding your app down to a complete halt.
So whenever you lazily use the plus sign to stick strings together, the Java bytecode compiler is actually secretly rewriting your program. Think about it. Since strings are immutable, adding two together should create a third garbage string. But instead, the compiler intercepts that plus sign, instantiates a highly optimized string builder behind the scenes, chains a bunch of append methods, and then finally calls toString at the end.
Like, here's the catch. The compiler isn't smart enough to do this optimally if you're inside a loop. For loops, you really need to manually use string builder so you don't generate thousands of garbage objects. Just keep one vital distinction in mind, though. String builder is super fast, but it is not thread-safe. If you've got multiple threads writing text at the exact same time, you've got to swap over to string builder. It's synchronized and safe, even if it is just a tiny bit slower.
All right, we've seen today how strings are immutable, how they're aggressively pooled, and how they stick around in memory to save space. And that leads to a huge security warning straight from our Chapter 11 source. Never, ever store passwords or encryption keys in strings. Because they're immutable, you can't just zero them out or erase them. They will literally linger in your computer's memory long after you're done with them, just sitting there waiting for a hacker to find them. Best practice? You really should be using byte arrays for sensitive data, which can be overwritten instantly.
It's a pretty sobering thought to wrap up today's explainer, isn't it? Since strings linger in memory until they're garbage collected, are your app's passwords currently exposed in a heap dump somewhere? Strings are incredibly powerful, heavily optimized, but deeply complex underneath. Take a look at your own code bases. Swap out those dangerous double equal signs, optimize those concatenation loops with string builders, and for sure, protect your memory from lingering secrets. Thanks for hanging out with me on this deep dive. Now go check your source code.